So, probably the biggest game of the year is out today. It's called Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
Oh, that thing.
I've heard of
that
it.
game.
It's a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Those are popular.
You shoot.
There's zombies in it.
Modern military game.
It's
Never.
got-
I haven't played one of those lately. No.
They're hitting all the popular things.
Yeah.
FPS, zombies.
Here's the question for you, Damon. And we're taking a strange corner right off the bat. I want to know. You've seen the commercial, I assume, that's on
The live action one.
non-frickin' stop of
Is
this
it?
guy with the afro and he's like whistling, and then everybody keeps getting the drop on each other, and Robert Downey Jr. shows up.
See, I don't watch much.
But you've seen
live
this commercial.
TV.
You've seen this commercial before.
What's Iron
Yes.
Man doing in a jet? By the way?
Yes. But how many people in that ad could you name?
One.
Okay.
I knew two.
I know Robert Downey Jr.
And
Robert
I
Downey
knew,
Jr.
I knew FPS Russia.
FPS Russia, I Justine.
Ooh.
We're quickly. I've noticed that they were skewing that commercial towards that YouTube generation, and a lot of people. Because I was at a bar watching with my friends, and I had explained to all these people were YouTube stars, and this is why they were there, and that didn't go over well. So thanks for watching us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube.
Yeah, sure. So that's
You're
out
a
today.
YouTube star, Greg.
No, yeah, I'm a huge YouTube star.
That's out today.
You should be in the next in Modern Warfare 4 commercial.
Yeah, and there's no conflict of interest there. Just me, hey guys, is Crash Bandicoot in this one?
That's out today, but just around the corner is the launch of an entirely new gaming system.
The Orbis and the Xbox,
Xbox
720.
720. Yeah.
Sooner than that.
What?
Much sooner
A
than
new
that
3DS?
is the Wii U.
Oh, right, the Wii U.
You remember that's
I
coming
do
out.
remember the Wii U. It's Sunday. It's right around the corner.
It's out
New
on
Super
Sunday.
Mario Brothers U.
And on the 7th day, man played video
Yeah.
games.
Nintendo likes to
Yeah,
release
I
stuff
was gonna
on
say they love
Sundays.
those Sunday launches.
You like that?
Sunday Fun
No,
Days.
they love those.
They do, yeah. Well, it's easier if you want to go to like a midnight launch thing. Are there midnight launches for consoles? They do that?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I guess their target demographic with Nintendo stuff is not in school on Sundays.
Yeah.
So they can.
What are you
go
trying
on
to
that.
say?
I'm saying
For
that,
babies.
For babies.
I'm saying they're getting an education,
Okay.
as they should.
Well, we have the first review for a Wii U game is live on IGN
Hold on to my hat.
right
hold
now.
on.
He's literally holding on
I
to
hold
it.
on to your hat.
Everyone hold on to your
Why does he need to hold on to your
I'm not
hat?
strong enough. I'm very weak.
It's not like, ladies and gentlemen,
Hold on.
everybody hold on to Greg's hat. Ryan, you reviewed the Wii U edition of Ninja Gaiden 3.
That's the first review.
That's the first
Yeah?
review of a Wii U
Yeah,
game.
there's irony there.
How about that? Who'd have thought?
So yeah, and you liked it. It turned out
I
better
do.
than
I
its
do actually
Xbox
like it.
360 and PlayStation 3 counterpart.
Yeah, I like it a pretty good deal. It's it's a strange thing because we see sort of these ports from other consoles go to their consoles all the time, where it's like Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition with some more levels and stuff. But this is not like a patch situation. This content could not be patched into the PS3 or 360 versions.
not be.
It's essentially like playing, like the other versions were alpha versions, then they went and fixed a whole bunch of stuff, and now it's a significant, it's like a 1.5 or 3.5, I guess, version, if you want to call it that. The combat's been addressed a lot. They've taken out a lot of the QuickTime event stuff, which was pretty annoying in the original. Added all the blood and dismemberment and decapitation back in the way it was in 2. Yes.
Justin.
That's what I want.
Absolutely.
My eyes
I know what we're
lit
doing
up.
Sunday when we get the kids.
Christmas.
You're not on school. Come play this.
Someone get Santa on the phone.
That's right.
I'm gonna-
And then Ayane, who has shown up in the Sigma games on PS3, has some missions in this one too, which are actually really fun. And the bosses have been toughened way up. The regular enemies have been toughened way up. So it's a lot closer to 2. It's still, in my opinion, far and away the least awesome of the 3. Because one is, of course, amazing. 2, I thought was great, even though it caught a little bit of flack from here and there. And then this is still good. It's just it's like instead of the disowned brother of the other 2, it's more like the cousin we all tolerate. Like, hey, buddy,
Yeah.
what's up?
So
it
Ring
is a good
endorsement
game.
from IGN.com.
You gave it a 7-something. Right?
7.6. Yes.
7.6. Yeah.
That's a totally respectable score.
Yeah, no, it's come a long way
seems
for
good.
sure.
And so, does it use the screen at all?
No, I mean, not well. You could play off the screen if you want, but as far as I was
one wants to do
playing
that.
with, I preferred the Pro Controller
Okay.
for this one because it's it's just mainly because of the
You're a
ergonomics
professional.
with the triggers.
Yeah.
The triggers are a little better, I think, than on the gamepad. But
Well, also you are an Xbox guy, so you felt right at home with that Pro Controller.
Mostly,
which looks
I could-
a heck
I
of a
could-
lot like the Xbox controller.
where are we going with this again?
We're just talking about Ninja Gaiden.
There's rapping.
We're just
I forget.
rapping.
I was going somewhere with a point. and now
Sorry,
it's
and then
gone.
Can you do the
Derailed.
deal where you disassociate the screen so your wife can watch TV and you can keep playing on the Wii U
Yes.
pad? I like
Yeah,
that. That's
that
a really
is
nice
there.
feature.
Yeah.
That's a really, really cool feature.
Yeah.
It's just weird that, you know.
Oh, you were asking me if you can do what the screen does.
Yeah.
Like what? So it just shows you the move list or lets you select Ninpo magic. So it's nothing to write home about.
I mean, I think that stuff's fine though. Like, I feel like it would be worse to try to shoehorn. Like, we have the screen, so let's do a bunch of bananas stuff with it.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a game where it naturally makes sense, use it, and if it doesn't, don't. I mean,
Yeah, at least it's not like Batman. You're not throwing shurikens with the gamepad screen on there.
It's just weird. Is that so? You know, Ninja Gaiden 3 came out earlier this year on 360 and PS3. They made a lot of changes to it, and it wasn't well received at all. Very
Originally.
Yeah, poorly reviewed. And so instead of fixing that version, they just brought out a new version for a different console.
Well, they did fix it. This is the fixed version.
Yeah,
But
but
I mean,
then
they
all
didn't
the people
fix
that
the old
bought
version.
the people
Oh.
that bought the old version,
Yeah.
they just have the crappy version of the game. It's
Well, like I said, I mean, it genuinely is. If if you're kind of familiar with how development works, there's only so much you can tweak with updates and such before you're getting down and rewriting combat systems and all that kind of stuff. And that's what happens here. And yeah, it's not a patch kind of situation. I would be thrilled if they wanted to put this out for Xbox and PS3 as like a $30, hey, we fixed it edition. That would be cool. But I think Nintendo is like co-publishing this, so I don't think it's coming.
Interesting.
to
I mean,
any
there
other
is a
consoles.
history of Ninja Gaiden games seeing these sorts of re-release and Game of the Year editions, and they did Black.
Yeah,
and
the
they've
PlayStation would always get our sloppy seconds
Yeah,
with the Sigma stuff.
Sigmas. We all love the Sigmas.
Let me ask you guys a question. Does the next generation of video games begin on Sunday?
I think the software is going to decide that.
Explain yourself.
If the software is what, those are the experiences, and if those are, a generational leap in user experience, then that's the next gen. But nothing I've seen from the launch titles with all these third-party ports, and even, New Super Mario Bros. U is cool, but it's basically Mario in high def, which is awesome to look at, but I wouldn't call that next gen. So nothing I've seen from the launch lineup says this is a new generation.
I think it is. I would say that.
Really?
I think so, because I mean, you could make the same argument. You could say Halo 3 was Halo in high def, right? Like,
Sure.
it's still the same experience, and so high def is a big deal for Nintendo. A lot of.
But Gears of War and Oblivion and Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, all those came out before Halo 3, and I would argue that those were the next gen. Yeah, Halo 3 is a weird example.
I mean, I think, fair enough. That's a good point. So I think the thing is, when you think about the Wii U and it's coming out, the Wii was also, there's a lot of concern that the Wii U is not going to be as powerful as the next Xbox and the next PlayStation. And, the launch games look good. Zombie U looks fine and everything, but it doesn't look a generation ahead of the current games. But no one considered, like, Wii is a part of this generation, right? Even though it's less powerful, even though it's an SD console,
I've made arguments that maybe the Wii is not really a current gen system.
No, I think it is. I mean, it's not. It depends on how you define next.
Exactly.
gen,
That's
right?
what we're getting weird into.
It's a
right?
current
Yeah.
gen
That's minutia.
experience, but it's not current gen technology.
The problem I have right now with the Wii U is that we're using the office, we're all playing and stuff, and so much of it still isn't working. We still don't have online stuff.
Correct.
And Nintendo needs a day one patch, they've said. We have to all wait for these things to go. So there's all these switches that need to flip. So like I was asking Audrey these questions of like, I'm reviewing Zombie U, and so I finally started playing on a retail today, and I was asking her, so like, okay, I've recovered I took my Mii from my 3DS now to this, and that's really cool. And when I make a Nintendo account, am I going to be able to transfer that over to my Wii U when I buy that one day? She's like, well, I'm not really sure yet. Well, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm like,
There's still question marks a few days before launch. I mean, I guess what I was getting at, though, was it depends on what's important to you. Like, Damon, I know that visual presentation is very important to you, so it totally makes sense that maybe you're not as jazzed about the Wii U. But if you're somebody that likes to play games in new ways, see things you haven't seen before, you got this two-screen setup, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, a lot of people are watching television while also have their phone in their hand. So in some ways, Nintendo's kind of ahead of the curve about understanding like what consumers are doing and how people are doing things these days. It's a new console. It's a new home console from one of the big three manufacturers, and that's a major event, no matter how you slice it or not. Even though it's not, so far it hasn't seemed to be incredibly graphically impressive.
We have an email here from one of our viewers, Brandon Calvillo. He says, as you all know, the Wii U finally launches next week. I personally am very hyped for its release since it is a brand new piece of hardware and I love getting the latest tech.
Hell yeah.
However, I have noticed that the vast majority of people are not as excited as I am about the Wii U. In fact, there seems to be a lot of unwarranted cynicism toward its launch, which I don't understand. I always thought that the start of a new generation of consoles was supposed to get people really hyped up and excited. So what I wanted to ask was, has it always been this way? I was young in the early 90s. I can't remember the launches of systems like the Super Nintendo, Sega Saturn, even the Nintendo 64. Were people this cynical about the launch of those systems back then as they are now?
No.
Or do you think that most modern gamers have just become jaded pessimists?
It's all the internet's fault.
Well, I mean, I think
This is a deep question.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on here.
I think yes and no. I was extremely excited about the launch of the GameCube and the launch of the Wii. You know, launches, it does seem like the Wii U launch, in my opinion, and maybe it's because I'm deeper in this business now, it doesn't seem like it's as big a deal. It doesn't seem like, you know, there's as much sort of hype and people going sort of nuts over it. But the flip side is there's always been that cynicism of like no one wanted to buy a Dreamcast day one. Everyone wanted to wait and see how it went, you know. And
I think part of it is the tech has always, they've always seemed to move forward together. It'd be like a front line pushing forward together. You know, with Genesis and Super NES were sort of equal in power and a huge step up from Master System and Nintendo.
Yep.
And it was they were sort of they would move in parallel, right? And then Xbox and PS2 and GameCube all coming out fairly close to one another, and PS3 and 360 were, I guess those 360 was almost a year early, but it still sort of felt like this I think because the Wii U just on a pure technical level seems like the specs are pretty close to the two systems we've been playing for 7 years.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think maybe that's why it feels like it's not quite as exciting just on paper.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big part of it because it doesn't feel like it's ushering in. This is why we're having this conversation, right? Does the next generation begin on Sunday? Because it doesn't feel like it does at all. I can't remember the last time. I didn't buy a 360 at launch. I didn't buy a PS3 at launch. I bought a Wii at launch, but I can't remember the last time a system came out and I had no interest. Even 3DS, like, you know what I mean, or 3DS XL. I want to see what's going on with that. I want to know what's on. It's like the Wii U came in and people were like, oh, okay, you know, Wii U's here.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I mean, you know, I took home the console to work on the Ninja Gaiden review, and a couple people in the elevator were like, oh, yeah. But it wasn't like, oh my God, you have that? Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, in terms of graphics, if you're talking about a leap in the presentation of games and really eye-catching visuals, no, I mean, the Wii U's not that console. But, you know, Nintendo's choosing to focus their energies elsewhere, like, you know, with that controller, and we're going to see, hopefully, some cool stuff that takes advantage of it. You know, with their sort of UI and menu system and how, you know, all that sort of works, and it's, you know, a lot more elaborate than anything Nintendo's done in the past, like on the operating system level.
But they still don't have, like, a friends list and a universal, you know, online system where, you know, Greg could be playing New Super Mario Brothers and I could be playing Ninja Gaiden and he could just invite me and I can jump into his game. Like stuff we've been used to and now take for granted for the last 6-7 years.
And that's the whole thing about it. I really think that, you know, Brandon's asking about like why people are people jaded is how it's gonna be. I think next year it'll be a completely different story, right? If that's when 720 and Orbis launch or whatever. Like when you're talking about those systems, I really think that's when people are gonna be like, like bonkers from E3 on. It'll just be a non-stop ramp up of holy crap, look at this, this is how it works, blah blah.
Just looking at you know traffic on IGN, engaging what our readers are interested in. Whenever we write anything about Orbis or Durango or whatever, those stories do very well. So there's already a lot of excitement about that.
Yeah, I mean, the Wii U just seems to be not a console that's put right in front day one for hardcore gamers.
And see, that's the big part too, is that, you know, you're talking about IGN and our core audience is that hardcore gamer, and I think he's talking about people being jaded. I think a lot of people got jaded with the Wii on this last generation, right?
Yeah, that's something you have to acknowledge too. You know, there are a lot of people who felt kind of burned by the Wii.
Absolutely.
Or were disappointed with the direction that Nintendo has taken.
I mean, I'd still like to say, I want to reemphasize that technological advancement isn't just more powerful graphics. You know, Nintendo, this is why I made that comparison to the Wii originally, is it's really not that different. You know, everyone's like, how come the Wii isn't as powerful as the 360 and the PS3? And Nintendo's like, well, you know, it's smaller, it's lighter, it's quieter, it draws less power. Like, it does these things that the other systems don't do. And that's advancement. Like, it's a more advanced console than those other consoles, but just in different ways that aren't as important to, you know, core gamers typically. You know, they obviously got to motion controls eventually. Kinect is very cool. You know, Move was, you know, it was what it was, but it sort of took some of the bite out of the Wii. But for a while, Nintendo were the only people doing that. So it's like, that might not be important to Damon Hatfield or, you know, your hardcore gamer across the street. But they are advancing technology just in different ways.
Yeah, no, I don't know. We're not trying to take anything away from them. I know it's always a slippery slope because it sounds like when you start talking about the Wii, it's really easy to move into, oh, we're talking a lot of crap on the Wii. We're not talking crap on the Wii. The best thing I ever heard about how to explain Nintendo right is like people get all, oh my god, they do the same franchises over again. It's Mario, it's Metroid, it's Zelda, whatever. And each one of those games is like usually like Galaxy of course had 2, but I mean they're on different engines, right? They're these they're
reinvented every time.
Exactly, they're these different experiences that you love and you fall in love with and you want to keep doing. But I think that the motion controls was the big deal, right? Like I adopted a Wii. Like I told people ahead of time when I was buying a Wii, and that was the only one I was buying at launch because I didn't have a widescreen TV yet, I didn't have broadband internet yet, and I wanted to download virtual console games, and I wanted to play those, and I wanted to play Zelda, and I wanted to play Mario, and then we got that, and then it was here is just this bevy of motion control craziness waggle fest that was like this isn't what I want.
That's true. I mean, I guess the original question that we went back to is does the next gen start this week? And I think that's why I mean I think the answer is yes, even though it doesn't have HD visuals, it's because it's still doing new things technologically just in a different way other than pure raw horsepower, I think. And I'm not, don't have one pre-ordered. I'm not necessarily in love with the console either. But I'm still, I'm glad Nintendo isn't just marching to the same beat everyone else is.
I think the software makes a bit of a counter argument to that though, because a lot of the games, at least that we're seeing so far, are just ports of things that are already on the current consoles, and that's not next gen to me.
I mean, I wonder how Nintendo feels about that, right?
Does next gen start with Batman, Arkham City?
That's exactly, like, I'm sure they're so happy to have Mass Effect and Batman and Assassin's Creed. Like, the Wii didn't get any of that stuff, really. And so that's very exciting and cool, but it's also, it's like next gen starts with ports of this gen's games.
Year-old games, yeah.
But I mean, that transition always happens. We saw that from the Xbox to the 360. We saw Splinter Cell was a Double Agent. That game, several games, and like King Kong and those sorts of games would hit both platforms. So
but they were hitting both platforms at the same time.
Yeah,
but it wasn't year-old games launching with the Xbox.
The 360 version was the superior version to the PS2 Xbox version. The jury's out on whether the Wii U versions of Mass Effect or of Batman is going to be the superior version to the PS3 and Xbox version.
Well, it's weird too, the whole Mass Effect thing, that like Wii U's getting Mass Effect 3 and then there's this Mass Effect trilogy that's coming out to the other two systems that has all the games. Like, okay.
Yeah, those are fair points. I will say that that's not Nintendo's decision.
Sure.
This is what the third parties want to do. And Nintendo's software, Nintendo's consoles always shine when you're playing Nintendo's own software.
Yep.
They're kind of Mario and Zelda boxes for a lot of people.
By the way, pro tip: if you're buying a Wii U this weekend, we did a story on this on the site this week, but found out the hard way that by default the Wii U has a power saver thing that defaults to
Damn
on.
it! I left Zombie U on when I came up here.
Yeah, it's like 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
60 minutes, defaults to on. So
I went. And didn't you save it right before you came?
I didn't get there in time.
So it doesn't. It's not like the Xbox where it just sort of dims the screen and turns the controller off. It actually shuts the entire system down. I was in the middle of a boss fight in Ninja Gaiden and went up to a meeting that was a little over an hour long. Came back and the system was just off. Like, what just happened here? Did someone turn this off?
Who did this, Mitch? Take off your belt. You're flipping them.
Go into the system settings and turn that up.
Yeah, or you can change it from like anywhere from 1 to 12 hours, or just turn it off.
Yeah.
Does that also? What if you do the thing where you leave the system on, then you take it and you play it on your screen? Then it would stay on, right?
Yeah, that'll.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's such a great idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, stuff like that's
what I should have done. I should have taken the gamepad to the meeting.
Yeah.
Problem would have been
PlayStation,
solved.
do that with the Vita. Come on.
Stuff like that's really clever.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Nintendo's kind of just doing their own thing, and every company insists. Microsoft says we're not looking at what Sony's doing. We're not concerned, but they are.
Yeah.
But with Nintendo, I kind of believe it. Like they kind of seem to not give a shit what
I think
Microsoft.
it's great.
Hey,
and
like
Sony
achievements, cool.
Yeah.
You like friends lists? That's nice.
But I do think it's great for the industry that Nintendo does march to the beat of the stone drum, rather than have 3 consoles that are all doing practically exactly the same thing.
Well, that's when they learned they couldn't compete, right? That was
Right.
the big thing with GameCube, right? That was their final attempt to try to be like, we're going to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
GameCube was great.
GameCube was
I
great.
love the green game.
Monkey Ball, yeah.
It's one of those things, Wii U just needs to get it together. Get me a new Toadstool tour. Give me
Yeah.
another Mario Kart. I'll be all set. I will buy your Wii U.
When was the last Mario Golf, man?
I think it was GameCube, right? For at least like consoles.
GameCube was a great console.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about that for the rest of
should.
for like?
I loved the GameCube.
GameCube was awesome.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Wii U.
Totally, yeah.
I'm sure it will sell very, very well through the holiday season, and then going into 2013, as we start getting announcements on the next Xbox and the next PlayStation 3, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with Wii U.
Interestingly, I finally, just going to see Skyfall the other night, saw my first Wii U ad at all.
Yeah, I saw that
before
ad.
the trailer. It was a commercial before Skyfall.
Yeah.
Haven't seen anything on TV. No billboards, no nothing yet. I mean, I'm sure it's going to ramp up soon, but I'm a little surprised that we're
it's out
a couple
on Sunday.
days away,
Yeah.
and I haven't seen anything.
I mean,
That's
that's another example of, that's how things work on the, I do all the mobile game stuff, and that's how mobile games work, is the promotion starts day one when the game comes out, because they're a little bit more casual, mass market, and that hype machine is really only for hardcore games and hardcore systems. Like, that's where you want to get that hype machine going months in advance. But with Nintendo, they're probably figuring, like, if they catch someone's attention and say, oh, Wii U, what's that? They want them to be able to turn around and buy that system.
GameCube スーパーマリオ最高の大冒険がゲームキューブでついに実現。これがスーパージャンプだ。空へ海へ自由自在に飛び回れ。任天堂ゲームキューブスーパーマリオサンシャイン。